The city was busy with tall buildings and shining lights, but far away from the noise stood a wide mansion surrounded by gardens and tall gates. It belonged to Mr. Karim, a well-known billionaire who was respected for his business skills and wealth. He had everything people dreamed of: cars, land, fame, and power. Yet, inside the mansion, his heart often felt heavy, because he lived with a challenge money could not solve: his only daughter, Aaliya. Aaliya was young and beautiful, but she was known for her stubborn nature. She never listened to anyone, not even her father. She wanted everything her way, and if something did not go as she wished, she would turn the house upside down. Her words were sharp, and her attitude was strong. Everyone in the house feared her mood. From childhood, she grew up without much care from her mother. Aaliya's mother had passed away when she was little, leaving behind only memories. Mr. Karim tried to give Aaliya everything to fill the gap, but the love of a mother could not be replaced with toys, clothes, or even endless gifts. Slowly, Aaliya built walls around her heart. She did not like people getting too close to her. She pushed them away with anger, as if it was the only language she knew. For years, Mr. Karim tried to bring gentle teachers, tutors, and maids who could guide his daughter. But every attempt failed. Maids would arrive with hope and leave with tears within a week. Some said Aaliya shouted too much, others said she made their work impossible. She would order them to do strange tasks, change her mind, and then blame them. She wanted control over everything, and if she lost it, her pride would not let her stay calm. The staff of the mansion often whispered about her in the kitchen. "No maid lasts here," one cook said. "She sends them running away." Another sighed, "It is not their fault. The poor girl is hurting inside. But how can anyone help her if she doesn't allow it?" Despite their sympathy, no one dared to step forward. Everyone kept their distance. Even the gardeners avoided walking near her windows when she was sitting there, just in case she got annoyed. Mr. Karim, who could solve the hardest deals in the business world, felt helpless in front of his daughter's attitude. He loved her deeply, but every time he tried to speak softly, she pushed him away. He feared she would grow into a lonely young woman who trusted no one. Often, he sat in his study, staring at her childhood pictures. In those photos, Aaliya had been smiling, full of life, holding her mother's hand. Where did that smile go, he would whisper to himself. One evening, Aaliya shouted again at her maid for bringing the wrong juice flavor. The poor maid, already nervous, began to cry. "You never do anything right." Aaliya snapped, slamming the glass on the table. The maid left the room shaking. By nightfall, she went to Mr. Karim and said, "I am sorry, sir, but I cannot stay here anymore. I tried, but your daughter will never accept me." It was the same story as before. By morning, the maid packed her bags and left the mansion. Aaliya did not feel sorry. She told herself it was the maid's fault. But deep inside, she felt a strange emptiness. When the hallways became quieter, when no one came near her, she sometimes felt more alone than she wanted to admit. Still, her pride would never allow her to show it. The mansion soon became silent again, with no one by Aaliya's side. She spent her days walking through the garden or sitting in her room, looking out of the window. The servants kept their distance, speaking in low voices whenever she passed. Mr. Karim knew this could not go on forever. His daughter needed someone who could break her walls gently, someone with patience and a soft heart. He made many phone calls, searching for a new maid. Most refused after hearing Aaliya's reputation. "We know your daughter, sir," they would say politely. "It is impossible to work for her." Still, Mr. Karim did not lose hope. Somewhere out there, he believed, there had to be someone strong enough yet kind enough to face Aaliya's storms. He prayed quietly at night, asking for help not as a billionaire, but as a father who wanted peace for his child. Aaliya, meanwhile, sat on her balcony one late afternoon, looking at the sky turning orange with sunset. She whispered to herself, "No one understands me. No one stays." A small part of her wished someone would, but she quickly brushed the thought aside. She stood up proudly, fixing her face back into its stubborn look. If anyone came, she would test them again, just as she always did. Little did she know, someone new was already on the way, someone who would not only stay but would also change her life in ways she never imagined. The morning sun touched the walls of the grand mansion, filling the empty hallways with light. Mr. Karim sat in his study, waiting for a visitor. He had finally found someone willing to take the job of being his daughter's maid. He had been surprised when the young woman agreed without hesitation, even after he told her about Aaliya's stubborn behavior. Her name was Nadia. She came from a small town far away from the city. Her clothes were simple, her shoes were worn, but her eyes carried a calm strength. She did not have much experience working in rich houses, but she had faced many hardships in life and learned patience through them. She believed that every person, no matter how difficult, had a reason behind their actions. When Nadia arrived, Mr. Karim greeted her politely. "Are you sure about this?" he asked kindly. "Many have tried before you. None lasted more than a week." Nadia smiled gently. "Sir, I will try. Sometimes a person just needs someone to listen." Her soft words gave Mr. Karim a little hope. He explained her duties and then asked the head servant to show her around the mansion. Finally, the moment came when she was introduced to Aaliya. Aaliya sat in the living room, holding her phone and scrolling with an uninterested look. When she saw Nadia, she raised her eyebrows. "Another one," she said in a flat voice. "Let's see how long you last." The other servants exchanged worried glances. They had seen this before. Usually, Aaliya's words were enough to break the confidence of new maids. But Nadia did not react with fear. She bowed her head slightly and said, "Good morning, miss. My name is Nadia. I will be here to help you." Aaliya leaned back, crossing her arms. "We'll see," she replied sharply. "I don't like people around me. Do not think you can act like a friend. Just do what I say." "Yes, miss," Nadia answered calmly. Aaliya waited, almost expecting Nadia to look upset or nervous. But Nadia's face remained peaceful. This small reaction confused Aaliya, though she did not show it. That afternoon, Aaliya decided to test Nadia. She asked her to bring a glass of juice, but when Nadia brought it, she changed her mind. "I don't want this flavor." "Bring another one," she said. When Nadia returned with another, Aaliya pushed it away. "Too warm. Bring cold juice." She kept repeating her demands, trying to tire Nadia out. To her surprise, Nadia did not show anger. She quietly went back and forth, fulfilling each request. She did not complain, nor did she sigh loudly like others had. She moved gracefully, as though she understood the game Aaliya was playing but refused to lose her patience. Finally, Aaliya frowned. "Why are you not annoyed?" she asked. "Do you not get tired of running around?" Nadia placed the tray on the table and smiled. "If this makes you comfortable, miss, then I am happy to do it." For a moment, Aaliya was silent. She was not used to such an answer. Usually, maids would cry, argue, or leave the room. But Nadia's patience felt different. It was strong but also gentle. Still, Aaliya quickly covered her surprise with pride. "Humph, we'll see how long that smile lasts." That night, Mr. Karim called Nadia to his study. "How was your first day?" he asked with concern. "It was fine, sir," Nadia said softly. "Your daughter is testing me, but I understand. She is not unkind at heart. She is only protecting herself." Her words made Mr. Karim pause. Few people had ever described his daughter like that. Protecting herself, he repeated thoughtfully. Perhaps this young maid saw something others could not. Meanwhile, in her room, Aaliya sat on her bed, thinking about Nadia. She told herself she did not care, but a small voice inside whispered otherwise. Why had Nadia not left after all those tasks? Why did she not raise her voice? Aaliya had tried her best to scare her away, yet Nadia stayed. The thought bothered her, but it also made her curious. The next morning, Aaliya tried again. She ordered Nadia to clean her wardrobe, which was filled with clothes scattered everywhere. It was a huge mess, and she wanted to see if Nadia would complain. Hours passed, but Nadia worked quietly, folding each piece, arranging colors, and dusting the shelves. When Aaliya checked, she was shocked to see her wardrobe shining like new. Nadia stood to the side, hands folded. "Is this better, miss?" she asked with her gentle voice. Aaliya wanted to say something rude, but her lips hesitated. The wardrobe looked better than it had in months. Instead of thanking her, Aaliya turned away quickly. "It's fine," she said coldly. But as she walked back to her bed, she could not hide a small smile forming on her face. The mansion staff began noticing little things. Aaliya, who once shouted at every mistake, was strangely quiet around Nadia. She still tested her, but the fire in her words was losing strength. Nadia's calmness was slowly creating cracks in the walls Aaliya had built. In her heart, Aaliya did not want to admit it, but she was beginning to respect the new maid who never argued, never cried, and never gave up. For the first time in years, change had entered the mansion. The days slowly began to pass, and the mansion, once filled with heavy silence, started to change in small, almost invisible ways. It was not because Aaliya had suddenly become kind, but because of the quiet presence of Nadia. Aaliya continued to test her new maid every day. Sometimes she would order her to polish the same vase again and again. Other times she would change her mind at the last moment and ask for something completely different. Any other maid would have left by now, but Nadia never complained. She moved gently, her voice steady, her smile soft. One morning, Aaliya asked her to water the garden flowers. But just as Nadia finished, Aaliya came out, frowned, and said, "They look dull. Do it again." Nadia simply nodded. "As you wish, miss." She filled the watering can once more and went back to the flowers. Aaliya stood watching, waiting for her to show annoyance. But instead, Nadia began to hum a soft tune as she poured the water. Her calmness was unusual. It was almost as if she found joy in every task, no matter how tiring. Aaliya crossed her arms. "Why do you hum?" she asked. Nadia looked up with a smile. "Because it makes the work lighter. Music helps the heart feel less tired." For a moment, Aaliya did not know what to reply. She turned away, pretending not to care, but inside, she was a little curious. Nobody had ever answered her like that before. Later that afternoon, Aaliya tried another trick. She asked Nadia to read aloud a long list of old magazines stacked in her room. She thought Nadia would stumble or grow bored. Instead, Nadia read each title slowly, clearly, without complaint. At one point, she even laughed softly at a funny headline. "Why are you laughing?" Aaliya asked sharply. "It's just a silly headline, miss," Nadia said kindly. "Sometimes laughter hides in small places." Aaliya rolled her eyes but secretly felt a strange warmth in her chest. This maid was different. Days turned into a week, and Aaliya noticed something surprising about herself. She still gave Nadia orders, but she no longer shouted as much. She still tested her, but she also began to observe her closely. Sometimes, when Nadia left the room, Aaliya found herself thinking about her words. She hated to admit it, but they stayed in her mind. One evening, Aaliya sat in her room reading a book. Nadia entered quietly with a tray of tea. Aaliya looked up and said in a softer voice, "You're late." Nadia placed the tray down and answered gently, "Forgive me, miss. I was helping the cook." Usually, Aaliya would snap at such an excuse, but that night, she simply nodded. She was not sure why. She sipped the tea, and for the first time, she noticed it tasted just the way she liked, warm, sweet, and calming. The servants of the mansion began whispering among themselves. "Do you see the change?" one asked. "Miss Aaliya is still strict, but her anger is less." Another nodded. "It must be because of the new maid. She is not afraid of her, and yet she is never rude." Mr. Karim also noticed the small changes. When he came home late one evening, he found his daughter sitting in the garden, quietly watching the stars while Nadia watered the plants nearby. In the past, Aaliya would never spend time in the garden unless it was to complain about something. Seeing her sit calmly surprised him. He did not say anything, but his heart felt lighter. Perhaps this new maid truly was different. The next morning, Aaliya woke earlier than usual. She walked into the kitchen where Nadia was already helping the cook prepare breakfast. Aaliya leaned against the door and watched for a moment before speaking. "You wake up very early," she said. Nadia turned with a smile. "Yes, Miss Morning is a gift. The world feels fresh at this hour." Aaliya tilted her head, curious. "Why do you always speak like that? As if everything is beautiful." Nadia paused for a moment. "Because even in hard days, there is always something small to be thankful for. If we only see the dark side, we miss the light." Aaliya felt quiet inside. She quickly turned away, pretending not to be interested. "Strange words," she muttered, walking back to her room. But deep down, she thought about it all morning. Later that week, Aaliya gave Nadia another impossible task. She told her to arrange her library, which had books scattered everywhere. Nadia spent the whole day sorting them by size, color, and topic. When Aaliya entered, she gasped softly. The shelves looked beautiful, almost like a picture from a magazine. Nadia stepped back, wiping her hands. "Do you like it, miss?" Aaliya wanted to hide her surprise, but her lips curved slightly into a smile. "It's fine," she said, trying to sound cold. But when she sat in her chair, she secretly kept looking at the neat shelves with quiet satisfaction. That night, when Aaliya lay in bed, she thought about Nadia. She wondered why this maid was so different. Why did she not cry like the others? Why did she not argue? Instead, she seemed to carry a strange peace that filled the air around her. Aaliya did not know it yet, but the walls she had built around her heart were beginning to crack. And the person breaking them was not her father, not her teachers, not the servants, but the new maid who faced her stubbornness with patience and kindness. For the first time in a long while, Aaliya felt a small, hidden spark of respect. She did not admit it, not even to herself, but it was there, quietly growing. The mansion looked peaceful from the outside, but inside, Aaliya's heart was still restless. She had grown used to Nadia's quiet ways, but she still carried the same pride and stubbornness. Whenever she felt weak inside, she covered it with sharp words. One rainy evening, the sky was heavy with dark clouds. The sound of raindrops against the windows filled the silent rooms. Aaliya sat in her room, pretending to read a book, but her eyes were not following the words. She felt an ache deep inside, the same ache she often tried to hide from everyone. Memories of her mother always returned on rainy nights like this. Aaliya could remember her mother's soft hands, her gentle voice, and the way she used to sing lullabies during storms. But those days were gone too soon. Since then, Aaliya had felt alone. Her father loved her, but he was always busy with business, meetings, and travel. The staff cared for her, but none dared to step close. She felt like a princess locked in a golden cage surrounded by riches, but starved for love. Nadia knocked softly on the door and entered with a cup of warm milk. She noticed Aaliya's faraway look and the untouched book in her hand. She placed the cup gently on the side table. "Miss, the rain is heavy tonight. I thought you might like something warm." Aaliya looked up quickly, trying to hide her watery eyes. "I didn't ask for it," she said in a firm tone. "I know," Nadia replied softly. "But sometimes we need things without asking." Those words struck Aaliya's heart. For a long moment, she remained silent. Then she turned her face away, not wanting Nadia to see the tears forming. But Nadia noticed. She stood quietly, not speaking, giving Aaliya space. Finally, Aaliya whispered, almost to herself, "Why do you stay here? Don't you feel tired of me?" Everyone else left. Nadia stepped a little closer, her voice calm. "Because I don't see only your stubbornness, miss. I see your loneliness too." Aaliya froze. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Her pride told her to deny it, to send Nadia away, but her heart trembled. She felt exposed, as if someone had seen through the walls she had carefully built. "You know nothing about me," Aaliya said, her voice shaking. "That is true," Nadia answered gently. "But I know that people who push others away often do it because they are afraid to be hurt again." Aaliya could no longer hold back her tears. She covered her face with her hands and began to cry quietly. Years of pain poured out in silence, broken only by the sound of rain outside. Nadia did not move closer, nor did she try to stop her. She simply stood nearby, a steady presence, letting Aaliya release what she had kept hidden for so long. After a while, Aaliya's voice came out between sobs. "I miss her, my mother. She left me so early. And father is never here. Everyone thinks I am spoiled, but they don't know how empty it feels inside this house." Nadia's eyes softened. She sat carefully on the chair near Aaliya's bed. "I am sorry, miss. Losing a mother is like losing a part of your heart. No one can replace her, not even the richest gifts. It is natural to feel angry and alone." Aaliya looked up at Nadia, her face red with tears. Do you think I am a bad person?" she asked in a trembling voice. Nadia shook her head. "No, miss. I think you are someone who has been hurting for a long time. Pain can make us act in ways we don't mean. But that does not make you bad. It only means you need someone who understands." For the first time in years, Aaliya felt understood. She wiped her tears roughly, embarrassed. "Don't tell anyone about this," she said quickly. "If the staff knows I cried, they'll laugh." Nadia gave her a soft smile. "Your secret is safe with me." That night, Aaliya drank the warm milk and lay down in bed. She did not say thank you, but when Nadia left the room, she whispered softly to herself, "I'm glad she stayed." The next morning, Aaliya acted as if nothing had happened. She gave orders as usual, spoke in her usual tone, and carried herself with pride. But something inside her had shifted. She no longer saw Nadia as just another maid. She began to see her as someone different, someone who could be trusted. The servants noticed a subtle change. Aaliya still tested Nadia, but she no longer shouted as much. Sometimes, she even listened to her suggestions. Once, when Nadia reminded her to carry an umbrella before stepping into the garden, Aaliya actually paused, took it, and muttered, "Fine." Mr. Karim also noticed his daughter's lighter mood. He could not explain it, but he saw her spending more time in the garden, sometimes even talking softly with Nadia. He wondered what magic this maid carried in her heart. In her own quiet way, Nadia had touched a wound no one else dared to see. She had not scolded, nor advised too much. She had simply listened. And for Aaliya, that was enough to make her feel less alone. The walls around her heart were not gone yet, but a small doorway had opened. and through that doorway, trust had begun to walk in. The days in the mansion began to feel different, though no one dared to speak too much about it. The stubborn daughter, who once filled the house with anger, now showed small signs of change. It was not a sudden transformation, but little drops of kindness, hidden beneath her pride, began to appear. Aaliya still carried herself with the same proud steps, her chin held high, but her words had softened in tone. And the reason was clear to anyone who noticed Nadia. One morning, the sun shone brightly over the garden. Nadia was kneeling near the flowers, pulling out weeds with careful hands. Aaliya stood on the balcony, watching her quietly. She could not explain why, but there was something peaceful about the way Nadia worked. Unlike others, Nadia did not rush or complain. She gave attention to the smallest detail, as if every flower mattered. Without thinking, Aaliya came down into the garden. She crossed her arms and asked, "Why do you always care so much about these plants? They are just flowers." Nadia looked up, her face glowing under the sunlight. "Because they are living things, miss. If we care for them, they bloom. If we ignore them, they wither. People are not so different." Aaliya frowned, pretending not to understand, but inside, the words touched her heart. She crouched down near the flowers and pulled a leaf roughly. "Like this?" she asked. Nadia shook her head gently. "Careful, miss, too much force can hurt the plant. It needs patience." For the first time, Aaliya laughed softly. "So even flowers are stubborn?" "Yes," Nadia replied, smiling. "But they open when treated with kindness." That moment stayed in Aaliya's mind for the rest of the day. She would not admit it aloud, but she had enjoyed helping Nadia, even if it was only for a few minutes. Later that week, a small incident showed how much Aaliya was beginning to change. Nadia was carrying a heavy basket of laundry through the hall when Aaliya noticed her struggling. Normally, she would have ignored it. But this time, she walked over and took a few pieces from the basket. Nadia looked surprised. "Miss, you don't need to, I'm just making sure you don't drop it," Aaliya interrupted quickly, her voice defensive. But when they placed the basket down, Nadia gave her a grateful smile. "Thank you." Aaliya turned her face away to hide her embarrassment. "Don't misunderstand. I was only helping because it annoyed me to see you walking so slowly." Still, that evening when she was alone in her room, she remembered Nadia's smile. It made her chest feel warm, a feeling she was not used to. The staff of the mansion also noticed. The cooks whispered, "Miss Aaliya helped carry laundry today." The gardeners said, "She spent time in the garden without shouting." Slowly, the air of fear inside the house began to lift. One night, Mr. Karim returned home earlier than usual. He was walking past the dining room when he stopped at the doorway. Inside, he saw something that almost brought tears to his eyes. Aaliya was sitting at the table with Nadia. They were not arguing, not shouting. Instead, Aaliya was laughing softly at something Nadia had said. It was a rare sound, a sound Mr. Karim had missed for years. He did not enter, afraid to disturb the moment. Instead, he quietly walked away, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. He whispered to himself, "Thank you, Nadia." The bond between the two young women grew stronger day by day. Aaliya, who once ordered Nadia around harshly, now sometimes joined her. If Nadia was cleaning the shelves, Aaliya would dust one corner. If Nadia was in the kitchen, Aaliya would lean on the counter and watch, occasionally passing her a spoon or plate. Though Aaliya always tried to cover it with excuses, Nadia knew her heart was softening. And Nadia never teased or exposed her. She simply let Aaliya take each small step at her own pace. One evening, Aaliya sat on her balcony, staring at the stars. Nadia came with a shawl and placed it gently on her shoulders. Aaliya did not push it away. Instead, she whispered, Why are you always so patient with me? Don't you ever get angry? Nadia smiled. Everyone feels anger, miss. But I believe patience is stronger. Anger makes walls, patience opens doors. Aaliya looked at her, her eyes thoughtful. For a long time, she said nothing, then whispered, maybe I don't need so many walls. That night, when Aaliya went to bed, she thought about her words. She realized she had begun to trust Nadia more than she had trusted anyone in years. Nadia had not only stayed, but she had also touched her heart in ways she never expected. The stubborn daughter of the mansion was still stubborn, but now her pride was no longer only a shield. A seed of kindness had been planted, and under Nadia's gentle care, it had begun to grow. And though Aaliya did not know it yet, this change would soon be tested in a way that would reveal how much she had truly grown. The mansion was brighter than usual. The servants hurried in every corner, polishing silverware, arranging flowers, and preparing the grand dining hall. Mr. Karim was hosting an important dinner that evening. Business partners and close friends were invited, and everything had to be perfect. But in his heart, Mr. Karim carried one worry: his daughter, Aaliya. For years, she had caused trouble whenever guests arrived. She would either lock herself in her room or appear with an attitude that embarrassed him. He hoped things would be different now, but he was not sure. In the kitchen, Nadia was busy helping the cook. She checked the trays of food, the desserts, and even the decorations on the dining table. She worked with her usual calmness, her presence steady like a guiding hand for the nervous staff. When Aaliya entered the room, the servants froze for a moment. They were expecting sharp words, as always. But to their surprise, Aaliya only asked, "Is everything ready?" "Yes, miss," Nadia replied. "But we still have some flowers to arrange." Aaliya walked closer and looked at the half-finished arrangement. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she said quietly, "Show me how to do it." Nadia blinked in surprise. "Of course, miss." She handed her a few roses and guided her on how to place them. Aaliya tried, her movements awkward at first, but soon she managed to create a small arrangement. The staff exchanged silent smiles. None of them had ever seen Aaliya helping in preparations before. As evening came, the mansion filled with the sound of laughter and greetings. Well-dressed guests arrived, shaking hands with Mr. Karim, who welcomed them warmly. The dining hall shone with lights, and the air smelled of delicious food. Aaliya appeared at the top of the stairs in a simple but elegant dress. She carried herself with pride, but her expression was calm. Many guests noticed her and whispered, "She has grown into a fine young lady." During dinner, everything went smoothly until a small accident occurred. One of the servants, nervous in front of so many people, accidentally spilled a jug of juice onto the table. The liquid spread quickly toward the guests' plates. The servant froze in panic, expecting harsh scolding. In the past, Aaliya would have shouted or laughed in annoyance. But this time, something inside her was different. Without thinking, she stood up, quickly grabbed napkins, and helped stop the spill. She even calmed the servant with gentle words, "It's all right. Mistakes happen. Bring another jug." The guests were shocked. Mr. Karim's eyes widened in disbelief. His daughter, the same stubborn girl who once scared every maid, was now helping calmly in front of everyone. One of the guests smiled at her. "What a thoughtful young lady," he said. Aaliya felt her cheeks grow warm, but she only nodded politely and sat back down. Inside, her heart was beating fast. She had acted without planning, it just happened. And when she glanced at Nadia standing in the corner, she saw her maid smiling proudly. Throughout the evening, Aaliya continued to surprise everyone. She spoke politely to the guests, asked if they enjoyed the food, and even helped serve a little when the staff was busy. Her father could hardly believe what he was seeing. After the dinner ended and the guests left with kind words of praise, Mr. Karim stood in the quiet hall with his daughter. His eyes were filled with emotion. "Aaliya," he said softly, "you made me proud tonight." Aaliya looked down, uncomfortable with the sudden warmth in his voice. "I only did what was necessary," she replied. But her lips curved into a small smile she could not hide. Later, when she returned to her room, she found Nadia waiting by the window. Aaliya sat on the edge of her bed and asked, "Did I do well tonight?" Nadia's face glowed with kindness. "More than well, miss. You showed everyone the strength of your heart." Aaliya looked away, her voice quieter. "I don't know what came over me. Before, I would have shouted. But tonight, I didn't want to." "That is because you are changing," Nadia said gently. "Your heart is softer now. You are beginning to see the world not with anger, but with care." Aaliya sighed. "It feels strange. But, not bad." Nadia nodded. "It feels like peace, miss. And once you taste it, you don't want to let it go." That night, Aaliya lay in bed, thinking about the dinner. She replayed the moment she helped the servant, the surprised faces of the guests, and her father's proud smile. For the first time in years, she felt useful, not just powerful. She felt respected, not feared. The stubborn daughter was slowly becoming someone new, someone who understood patience, kindness, and responsibility. And deep in her heart, she knew it was all because of the maid who never gave up on her. The mansion, once heavy with silence and tension, was beginning to glow with warmth. And soon, Aaliya's journey of change would reach its most important moment, the time when she would truly admit the difference Nadia had made in her life. The morning after the grand dinner, the mansion felt different. Sunlight poured through the wide windows, and the servants moved about with lighter steps. They still spoke in whispers about what had happened the night before. None of them could forget how Aaliya, the once stubborn and unkind daughter of the billionaire, had surprised everyone with her calmness and kindness. Mr. Karim sat in his study, still thinking about it himself. He had spent years worrying about Aaliya's behavior. He had seen dozens of maids come and go, each one leaving with a broken spirit, unable to handle her attitude. But now, for the first time, he had seen hope in his daughter. He knew he had Nadia to thank for it. Upstairs, Aaliya stood by her mirror, brushing her hair. She paused, staring at her reflection. The face looking back was the same, but her heart felt different. She remembered the guests smiling at her, her father's eyes filled with pride, and Nadia's gentle approval. It felt new, but it felt right. There was a soft knock on her door. "Miss Aaliya," came Nadia's calm voice. "Come in," Aaliya said. Nadia entered with a tray of breakfast. She placed it carefully on the table and looked at her young mistress. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. Aaliya nodded. "Yes. I kept thinking about last night." Nadia smiled warmly. It was a night to remember. Aaliya hesitated for a moment before she spoke again. "Nadia, do you think I really changed? Or was it only for one evening?" "You have truly changed, miss," Nadia replied softly. "One evening cannot fool the heart. What we saw last night came from you, not from a show." Aaliya looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. "Before you came, I thought no one could understand me. I thought I didn't need anyone. But I was wrong. You showed me how much better life feels when I listen, when I care, when I respect others." Her words carried a weight Nadia had longed to hear. She walked closer and placed a gentle hand on Aaliya's shoulder. "And you showed me something too, miss, that even the hardest heart can soften, and even the most stubborn soul can grow." Later that day, Mr. Karim called both Aaliya and Nadia into his study. His face was serious, but his eyes carried warmth. "I want to say something important," he began. "Last night, I saw a daughter I have waited years to see. Aaliya, you made me proud in front of my friends. But more than that, you made me proud as a father. Aaliya's throat tightened. She had not heard words like that from him in years. Mr. Karim turned to Nadia. And you, Nadia, you have done what no one else could. You have given me back my daughter. You did the impossible. Nadia lowered her gaze humbly. I only guided her, sir. The strength was always inside her. Tears welled in Aaliya's eyes, though she tried to hide them. For years, she had built a wall of pride around herself. But now, that wall was breaking, and it felt like freedom. She took a step forward. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Father. I'm sorry. For all the times I made you ashamed, for all the moments I hurt others without care. I thought I was strong, but I was only lonely. Nadia, she showed me the truth. Mr. Karim stood up and embraced his daughter. The past is gone, Aaliya. What matters is who you are becoming now. For a moment, the room was filled with silence, except for the sound of hearts healing. From that day on, the change in Aaliya was not just for one evening. She began helping around the mansion, speaking kindly to the servants, and spending time with her father. The staff, who once feared her footsteps, now smiled when she passed. One afternoon, she even visited the kitchen and surprised everyone by trying to bake a cake with Nadia's help. It was messy, the cake uneven, but the laughter it brought filled the house with joy. Aaliya also started joining her father in his charity work. She visited orphanages, schools, and hospitals with him. At first, the children hesitated around her, but soon they grew to love her gentle ways. She realized how much happiness she could give when she shared her heart instead of hiding it. Through it all, Nadia remained by her side not as just a maid anymore, but as a trusted friend. Their bond was strong, built on patience, respect, and care. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with soft gold, Aaliya and Nadia sat together in the garden. The air was calm, filled with the scent of blooming flowers. Nadia, Aaliya said, her voice soft but sure, when you first came here, I wanted to send you away like all the others. But you stayed. You never gave up on me, even when I was at my worst. For that, I will always be thankful. Nadia's eyes glistened, but her smile remained steady. It was never my duty to give up, miss. It was my duty to believe in you. And you proved me right. Aaliya looked up at the sky, where the first stars began to shine. No maid could handle me before. Everyone said it was impossible. But you did it. You changed me. You changed everything. And in that quiet garden, under the fading light, the truth was clear, the impossible had become possible not through force, but through patience, kindness, and love. Aaliya was no longer the stubborn daughter everyone feared. She was now a young woman ready to embrace life with grace. And at her side was Nadia, the maid who had done the impossible. The mansion, once a place of tension, now stood as a home filled with warmth, laughter, and hope. And so, the story of a stubborn girl and a patient maid came to its gentle end, leaving behind a lesson for everyone: hearts can change, and love in its purest form has the power to transform even the hardest soul.